We're going to start with the mail that's come in. Headline there, big and bold, burglar is free to look after his children. Typical mail story, isn't it?
It's a very good story, isn't it? And what a mess we're in with our human rights legislation. We incorporated the European Convention on Human Rights into British law back in the late 1990s. And, of course, we've had the fiasco of the super injunctions. We've decided that prisoners must get the vote. And now be let out of prison if they've got a family. I mean, I think people will be actually pretty damned angry about this, and rightly so.
But quite often with these types of stories, the devil is in the detail. But having sort of read as much as you can of this story, you think that really it's something people will be outraged about?
I've been aware of this coming up for the last few days, and there's been speculation, what will the judge do? And of course they're all terrified. British judges are terrified that if they don't make a decision in a certain way, that off people go to Strasbourg, making them look really very, very stupid. So I'm not surprised that we've got this, but I think the call for us to get rid of the Human Rights Act and get back to... In fact, David Cameron was talking, wasn't he, a year or two ago about a British Bill of Rights. I think the overwhelming majority of the public will be horrified at this.
James, what do you make of this story?
Well, I mean, the problem is introducing these concepts like a right to a family life into British law, which has traditionally been based on specific cases. Yeah. It's far too broad. What does it mean in this case, a right to a family life? You know, does a burglar have a right to a family life? That's clearly what the judge has concluded here. But most of us would think when you commit a crime, you forfeit some of those rights. And that is the problem here. I think one of the problems politically for David Cameron is this is going to run like wildfire through the right-wing press, through the Conservative Party, and, you know, through the general public. But Cameron can't do anything about it because he's in coalition, and the Liberal Democrats have made it quite clear that they will not be there if the Human Rights Act is touched or scrapped or revised. So it's a real political headache for David Cameron.
But Cameron's problem is, I mean, he did promise us a referendum on our European relationship and didn't give it to us. And that's actually, the only way we're ever going to sort this out is having a referendum on our EU membership to decide whether we want this or not.
But the ECHR is different from the EU.
It's exactly the same thing, because to be an EU member, you have to subscribe to all the... So it's become one and the same thing. And, I mean, what most Conservatives will say to Cameron on this is, please give us the referendum that you've promised us.
Let's quickly just mention the photo on the front page there of Sharon Shoesmith, set for a huge payout, possibly £1 million. We were talking earlier this evening about really where this leaves Ed Balls, whether it will actually be damaging to him.
Bit of a mess, isn't it? He sacked her on television, as I understand. So
that was the first she heard of it,
so,
yes.
Yeah, so I mean, she clearly, in terms of employment law, hasn't been treated very well. But I don't think the public anger will be at Ed Balls. I think the public anger will be to say, look, in the public sector in this country, people are paid a vast amount of money. So ever since '97, those sums have gone up and up and up. And is anybody ever accountable for anything? Because it seems that no one ever gets sacked, and in this one rare case, someone does get sacked and gets £1 million in compensation.
Well, we don't know if that figure will be
Well, it could be
achieved,
in fact, with the
possibly.
pension, it could be up to £2.5 million, according to today's judgment. So there is this sort of marzipan layer that Blair created of people in quangos, working for local government authorities, and they really are earning a huge amount of money.
The Eye, actually, is coming up, sister paper, also leading on the Shoesmith story there. Was Baby P scapegoat, says Judge. Ed Balls accused of sacking director to appease public anger, what we've just mentioned, and a court victory puts Children's Services Chief in line for £1 million payout. Unlikely that she will work in such a capacity in the future with children, but if, as you say, the pensions are brought into it...
Yeah, I mean, she's 58. She's 58, so working in the public sector, she wouldn't have worked for that much longer anyway. So she's going to get a massive payout, plus a huge pension package. There's this question of accountability.
The honourable thing for her to have done today would have been to come out and say, I'm glad that the court has upheld that I was dismissed wrongly. I'll take my legal costs, but I'm not interested in any money.
Well, she could give it to the NSPCC, couldn't she?
We just have a culture in our public life, whether it's Sharon Shoesmith or it's the bankers. There's no shame. There's no concept that you've done something wrong. It's bad things have happened on your watch that you're responsible for. And forget the kind of precise letter of your contract or whatever. Own up, take responsibility, and walk away.
What are they leading with? We can still afford to help the world's poorest. As powerful voices in his party and the press urge him to slash international aid, Cameron takes a stand. James.
This is interesting. This is one of the major things that David Cameron did when he became Conservative Party leader, was to say, we will meet our Britain's international obligations. We'll send 0.7% of our total national wealth on international aid. But the other week, a letter leaked out from the Defence Secretary, Liam Fox, to David Cameron saying, come on, we can't afford to do that, don't put it into law, why don't you give me some more money for the defence budget, essentially. And illustrated by the fact he's given the interviews in The Independent, his own party don't really want to hear. The Tory supporting press aren't interested in this story.
And a lot of people will say charity begins at home.
And I think the other point about, helping the third world, we could help them with trade, not aid.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the real... And, we're giving 300 million a year to India. They've got a space programme, and they've even got aircraft on their carriers, unlike us. So people are saying, why are we doing it? Why are we giving another 600 million over the next 4 years to Pakistan for education, when our own educational standards aren't doing very well? It's funny, it's only in the last year or two, I think in straitened economic circumstances, that the public have started to focus on this. But we don't mind giving money for disaster relief, that's fine. But giving hundreds of millions of pounds every year to governments with space programmes just does not wash.
You think the logic, people find it difficult to see the logic in that type of...
I do.